Object-oriented programming. In object-oriented programming, we create objects and manipulate them using computer code. In these set of tutorials, we will be using Dart as the programming language to create and manipulate these objects. Variables. These are the building blocks of programming. A variable is like a box that can store a range of values. We can create an unspecific variable with the keyword var. This means that it can hold any value. Variable names should be written in lower camel case with no spaces. Variable names cannot contain special characters, but an underscore and a $sign are permitted. Variable names cannot begin with numbers, but may contain a number. All lines of code end with a semicolon. String. This holds a string of characters enclosed with a double or single quotes. Int. This holds an integer. Integers are whole numbers, and these may be positive or negative. Double. These are numbers that have a decimal value. These can also be positive or negative. Bool. This holds Boolean value which is either true or false. Num. This holds either an integer or a double. We use this keyword when we need to be less specific. Okay, let's go back to our Dart console application that we created last time. And we're going to start today by creating some variables. So I'm going to create a variable called first name. My first name is Victor, and you'll notice that it's enclosed by 2 quotation marks. I'm going to create another one, call it last name. My last name is Wooding, also enclosed by double quotation marks. And I'm going to create a variable call it day of the week. And today is Sunday, and that is also enclosed in double quotation marks. Pretty cool, creating variables. So the first set of variables are the correct way to name your variables. You'll notice that they're written in camel case. Okay, so I'm going to attempt to create a variable, and this one is going to have a space. So I'm going to say var first job, and I'm going to set that equal to banker. You'll notice that we have an error. I'm going to add a dash between first and job and see if that works. And that also gives me an error. I'll just go back and show you that you can have underscores in your variable names. So you can have first underscore job, but first dash job is not allowed. Now I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to begin that variable with a number. So I'm going to say first job 1st job and set that to banker, and that doesn't work, but we can have a number in our variable names, because when I create job 1 and set that to banker, it doesn't give an error. Variable names can also begin with an underscore. So I have var underscore second job, and I'll set that to teacher. Okay. Now I'm going to show you specific variables. Okay. These variables that we were looking at before, these here are unspecific, but if you want to be more specific, there's a different keyword that you need to use. So if you're dealing with strings, you use the string keyword. So I'm going to create a variable and call it type of vehicle, and I'm going to set that to Suzuki. That's the type of vehicle that I drive. I'm also going to create another variable. I'm going to call it color of vehicle, and I'll set that to silver. Okay, so we can have, if we're dealing with strings, if we know that we want to be dealing with strings, then we use the string keyword. But what if we want to deal with integers? Well, we use the int keyword. And here we have number of wheels. I'll set that to 4. Okay. And there's just something else that I want to show you. Color of interior, I'm going to set that to black, but this time instead of using double quotes, I'm going to use single quotes because single quotes is also allowed. Okay, I'll create one more variable, one more integer variable, and I'll call it int negative number. And you can see that that is allowed. You can have integers can be negative numbers. Now, if you want to have a multi-line comment, this is how you go about doing it. You begin with a forward slash, followed by 2 stars. The stars is you hold on the shift key and you type 8, and then you have another forward slash there. For a single line comment, you use 2 forward slashes. Right. So on now to doubles. I'm going to create a double. I'm going to call it money in pocket. I'm going to set it to 0.25. This is not true, but it's just an example. And I'm going to set one. I'm going to create another double. I'm going to call it money on bank account, negative 0.50. So yes, doubles can also be negative, just like integers. And doubles are decimal numbers. Okay, now I'm going to show you about how to create booleans. And booleans are your true or false values. So you create them using the keyword bool. So I'm going to set create bool is hungry, and I'm going to set that to true. You'll notice that you don't need to have quotation marks because you can have a value that is either true or false. But you can have a string that contains a value of true, and I'll show you that a little bit later. So I created 2 more variables. Is tired. I'll set that to false, and must go to work tomorrow, and set that to true. Now, num is used when you need to be less specific with numbers. So a num can hold an integer value, or a num can hold a double value. So we created some number, and we set that to 3. 3 is an integer. And we created another number, and we set that to negative 3.33333. So num can hold either an integer or a double. Now I'm going to give you some bonus content. This has nothing to do with variables, and this here is actually a function. I'm going to introduce you to the print function, and this print function requires a string. So if you want to print something to the console, this is the function that you would use. So most programmers, when they're first starting out, they usually print hello world to the screen. But instead, I'm going to print thanks for watching and hit subscribe. And I am going to hit run. And if you look over there, we can see it. Thanks for watching and hit subscribe.